Na- Good day, everyone. I am Trixie P. Patosa, BSF 1A. So, as you can see on the screen, our topic for today is all about Module 5 Finding Meaning. Lesson 1 How We See Objective and Subjective Means. So, in our objectives, upon successful completion of this module, you should be able to discuss the meaning of form and content, undertake comparative descriptions of form and content, then state the three levels of meaning in world art, and identify the use of iconography in art. Define the term context and discuss its role in finding meaning in art. Describe the role of the critic and state and explain the 6 critical perspectives of abstraction. Up until now, we've been looking at artworks through the most immediate of visual effects, what we see in front of our eyes. Now, we may start breaking down some of the hurdles to finding a specific meaning in art, such as the distinction between looking and seeing. So, to look is to get an objective overview of our field of vision, literally describing what is in front of you, while seeing speaks more to understanding and applying meaning to it. When we see, we understand what is seen as symbols and we interpret what's there in front of us. There are some areas of learning, particularly psychology and biology, that help form bases of understanding how we see. For instance, the fact that humans perceive flat images as having a reality to them is very particular. In contrast, if you show a dog an image of another dog, they neither growl or wag their tail. Although dogs have a good vision, they can perceive flat images as containing any meaning.
Good day, everyone. This is Genevieve G. Spanel, and this is the continuation of Trixie Patusa's report. And now let's start. After we see an object, we can understand its form, the physical attributes of size, shapes, and mass. We can separate out each artistic element and discover how it used in the work. The importance of a formal level of meaning it is allow us to look at any work of art from an object view. So, mahalaga ang formal upang makapagbibigay daan ito sa atin na malaman at matingnan ng anumang gawa at halaga ng sining sa iba't ibang uri ng bagay. So, next. Ville of Venus. Yet, Rothko's painting is much more reductive than the photo. The space is flat, setting right of the surface of the canvas, whereas in the photo you get the feeling of receding space as areas of color overlap each other. So as young a man your photos live from the Portland, Oregon and hiked the Cascades Mountain. On hikes for higher elevation, he saw the landscapes and atmospheres around him and was especially moved by the color in the skies near the horizon. Next, the Veil of Venus bands pink, violet, and blue near the horizon directly opposite the settings or rising sun. When we compare the two photos, we formally they are similar. Bands of color spreads horizontally across the surface in layers. This similarity is not coincidence. Now we can imagine the memories reflected in Rothko's series of abstract color filled paintings. It's simplistic to say that this was Rothko's only influence. As an artist, he explored paintings, styles emerging out of surrealisms, including automatic drawings and more complex mesomorphic techniques. Two pictures as first is Acropolis and the Curse of Empire by Thomas Cole. In other example of formal similarities, early photographs often use painting as reference. We can see the comparisons of 19th century photo Archopolis in Athens, Greece, and from the series of Course of Empire by Thomas Cole titled The Consummation. Both shows commanding views of landscape dominated by classic Greek architecture. The photo mimics Cole's paintings in formal terms, emphasizing the grandeurs of the architectures within a vast of space. Next, conversely, realist paintings from the 19th centuries were sometimes ridiculed for being too lifelike and not ideal enough. The Theodore Dreiselt Raft of the Medusa is an example. The rise of modern art produced artistic styles that challenge viewers to find meaning in the works they see. The use of abstractions and gestures as subject matters runs counter and traditional avenues for finding meaning. This is the formal gestures-laden approach. However, that much of the grace and delicacy as well as the power, anger, or other emotions can be conveyed. All elements of arts are all important in what makes our of art interesting, like line, color, shape, and textures, can be used individually or combined together to create more impact.
So good day everyone. I'm Daniela T. Salilin and my assigned topic is all about the third level of meaning, which is the context. So what is context? So context consists all of the things about the artwork that might have influenced the artwork or the maker, which is the artist. So the context is all about the things that influenced the artist. So this include when the work was made, then asa siya gibuhat, then nganong gibuhat ni siya nga art. This some possible other that also help us to understand what the art means or unsay gipahiwatig sa art. The crafts arts have meaning too. So this means that na even craft arts have meaning too. They also portrayed or represent a meaning about it. So these are example of art crafts. So first one is a goblet. So a goblet from the 16th century has an aesthetic meaning in its organic form and its function as means to hold and dispense liquid. So the goblets dated the map of the Rhine. It represents a specific context which it tells a story about the historical, religious, or social issues surrounding a work of art. The second one is the Hammer gold mask. The mask represented either the Sican deity from spiritual world or Lord of Sican. So in this cultural context, the mask had significance in life, the spiritual world of the Sican people. So for the Sican people, the mask represented the deity from spiritual world, which mean a man who represents duty in the natural world. And the masks were usually ginabutang siya sa tiilan sa namatay nga hari or deity in his tomb. So this is James Rosenquist. So James Rosenquist, he's a painter. So Rosenquist painted brightly colored, fragmented pictures from the commercial realm, creating collages that comment the socio-political and economic climate of America. So, James Resenquist, painted visually brightly colored, no. This the context also about his artwork is about realm, creating collages, socio-political and economic climate. So these are some example of James Resenquist's work of art. The first one is the F11. So to view Resenquist's painting, F11 is to be confronted with a huge image of a fighter jet. No, makita sa picture is kanang fighter jet overlaid with images from popular culture, all in bright colors and seemingly without connection. But when you see the work in the context, then you will realize the art means. So this means about war and consumerism. So the second one is kaning the atomic bomb and the umbrella by Resenquist. So the atomic bomb and the umbrella, its context means as the umbrella represent people who would like to sit under beach with their ice drinks. So while the bubble metaphor, which is related siya to the bomb, which means this art is one was wet and one was dead. So the last one is the little girl under the hair dryer. So the little girl under the hair dryer, the context represent of the arts means this little girl from Texas or Long Island is pushing the market that build war weapons. So usually ang Resenquist work of art represent war, consumerism, and etc. Then his work of arts also nagakuan siya gamit siya mga bright colors. So that was all my topic, guys. Thank you for listening and God bless to everyone.
Good day, everyone. My name is Monica Montilla, and I'm going to discuss about the third level of meaning, which is the context. It is the craft arts have meaning to primarily in the functionality of artworks themselves, but also in the style and decorations afforded them. Then the historical, religious, or social issues surrounding a work of art. The Golden Mask from the 16th century has an aesthetic meaning in its organic form, in its function as a means to hold and dispense liquid, and a particular historical meaning in the way it is embellished with a diamond point engraving that depict the flow of the river Rhine. Well, according to James Resenquist, painting is to be contented with a huge image of a fighter jet overlaid with image from popular culture, all in bright colors and seemingly without corrections. But when we see the work of the context of American experience in the 1960s, we realize the true broad visual comment Resenquist is making about war and consumerism. What then? And it called a lack of ethical responsibility Painting Below Zero on a Life and Art. That's all. Thank you. God bless. I am Gisami Pararan Bandola and I am the reporter of the fourth level of meaning iconography. Iconography is a branch of history studies the identification, description, and interpretation of the content of images. The subject the subjects depicted, the particular composition in details used to do so, and the other elements that are distinct from artistic style. At the basic level, we can think of iconography as the conveyance of deeper meaning through simple visualization. It makes use of symbolism to generate narrative, which in turn develops a work's meaning. Each of these objects in this painting has a specific meaning and beyond imaginary. So this is the one, the Merodi altarpiece. For a similar discussions of iconography in art, view and listen to the smart history presentation about campaigns Renaissance era painting the Merodi altar face. The Merodi altar face is an oil panel triptych now in the cloisters in New York. It is unsigned and undated but attributed to early Netherlandish painter Robert Campaign and an assistant. You can now instantly populated iconography in imagery can convey specific hidden meanings. The problem here is to know what all of this means if we want to understand the work. Understanding the context of the paintings will help. Another more contemporary paintings with icons embedded it is a Grant Wood's American Gothic. The second American Gothic from the 1930s. So, American Gothic is a 1930 painting by Grant Wood in the collection of the Art Institute of Chicago. Wood was inspired to paint what is known as the American Gothic house in Eldon, Iowa, along with the kind of people fancied should live in that house. The double expressions on the figure's pieces signify the truthness of a Midwestern American couple. Indeed, one critic complained that the woman in the painting had a face that could sour milk. Notice how the trees and bushes in the painting's background and the small cameo the woman wears mirror the soft roundness of her face. These traditional symbols of femininity carry throughout the work. The third one is Gothic architecture style. Gothic architecture style is an architectural style that was prevalent in Europe from the late 12th to the 16th century during the High and Late Middle Ages, surviving into the 17th and 18th centuries. In some areas, it evolved from the Romanesque architecture and was succeeded by Renaissance architecture. The arch window frame at the top center of the painting in a particular is a symbol of the Gothic architectural style from the 12th century. The fourth one is the vanitas. Vanitas is the Latin for vanity in the sense of emptiness or worthless action. Vanity of vanities. Said the preacher, all is vanity
Ecclesiastes 12:8. The implication of these words from the Old Testament is that all human action is transit in the contrast to the everlasting nature of faith. A vanitas is a particular type of still life painting in which objects symbolically refer to such a theme. For example, in Steinwick's allegory in the collection of objects which suggest human achievements like the book and instrument are related to reminders of mortality. The lamp which has been snapped out and the skull. And vanitas was an art form that began in the 16th and 17th centuries, which existed as a symbolic type of artwork that demonstrates the temporality and futility of life and leisure. The most well-known genre to come out of the vanitas theme was that of the still life, which was incredibly popular in Northern Europe and Netherlandish. Vanitas artworks came about during a time of great religious tensions in Europe as it emerged as a defender of the Protestant mission of introspection.
Good morning, everyone, especially Twizer. Good morning, and I'm going to continue this topic, critical perspective. In contrast, Ernst Ludwig Kirchner's painting Franzi in front of a curved chair from 1910 is also considered a symbol of artistic freedom. His expressionist art, with its strong, sometimes arbitrary colors and rough approach to forms, was denounced by Nazi Germany as being degenerate. Kirchner and other expressionist artists were marginalized and many of their works destroyed by the authorities. So this is the picture of the curvature. Psychoanalytic criticism is the way we should look at work. So kaning psychoanalytic criticism daw is mo ni ang dawi nga mutan-aw ta sa ato ang trabaho of we feel it is only about personal expression. The purest form of this criticism ranks the work of untrained and mentally ill artists are being just as important as any other art. It is in this way that the artist inside is more important than any other reason the art happens or the effect the art has. So kung unsa ang naa sa sulod sa ato mao jud na ang ato ang drawing, no, kung malipayan ta sa atong sulod sa atong kasing-kasing, so maka-create pud ta og nindot kaayo nga drawing. So feminist criticism began in 1970s as a response to the neglect of women artists over time and in historical writings. Feminist criticism created whole movement in the art world. It has changed over the last few years to include all underrepresented groups. In reality, all of these critical perspectives hold some truth. Art is a multifaceted medium that contains influences from most all the characteristics of the culture created in and some that transcend cultural environments. So this is the picture. This is the picture of feminist criticism. So that's all my topic about critical perspective. And once again, good morning.
In contrast, Ernst Ludwig Kirchner's painting Franzi in front of a carved chair from 1910 is also considered a symbol of artistic, hence political freedom. So his expressionist art, with its strong, sometimes arbitrary colors and rough approach to form, was denounced by Nazi Germany as being degenerate. The Degenerate Art Show of 1937 was a way for German political establishment to label modern art as something evil and corrupt. Hitler's regime was only interested in heroic, representational, and idealistic images, something that Kirchner was rebelling against. So Kirchner and the other expressionist artists were marginalized. Many of their works destroyed by the authorities. So, nakita ninyo, genre nga doon ang picture ni artwork ni Kirchner. So, next is psychoanalytic criticism. Is the way we should look at if we feel it is only about personal expression. Also, psychoanalytic criticism is more than any other form of psychology perceives that art is deeply rooted in the unconscious depth of the artist. And for example, what a man has experienced earlier becomes not only content of his dream but also of his creative work as well. So the purest form of this criticism ranks the work of untrained and mentally ill artists as being just as important as any other art. When it comes to discussing Vincent van Gogh, we will often hear people make mention of his mental state more than his actual artwork expression or career. So next is feminist criticism, began in the 1970s as a response to the neglect of women artists over time and historical writings. This form of criticism is specific to viewing arts as an example of gender bias in historical Western European culture and views all work as a manifestation of this bias. Feminist criticism created whole movements in the art world, specifically performance-based art, and has changed over last few years to include all underrepresented groups. Example of feminist art include Judith Chicago's large-scale installation which is called The Dinner Party. Example of feminist art include Judith Chicago's large-scale installation which is called The Dinner Party. So, nakita ninyo dyan nga doon ng artwork ni Judith Chicago. So, that's all. By the way, this has been your reporter, Pia Amor Trujillo Isarna. Thank you.